The British Navy's secret weapon was a tortoise. When you think of the weapons of war, you probably think of steel and firepower. Cannons, rifles, towering warships. We remember the great admirals and the decisive battles. But history is full of strange and forgotten stories that don't make it into the textbooks, quiet footnotes that, when you look closer, tell you something profound about the will to survive and inspire. What if I told you that one of the British Empire's most enduring veterans, a witness to the age of sail and the dawn of modern warfare, wasn't a decorated officer? And what if this veteran's greatest contribution wasn't an act of violence, but one of simple, stoic existence? This is the story of a creature who saw more history than most of us can imagine, whose life spanned from the reign of Queen Victoria to the Information Age, and whose presence on the deck of a warship gave a strange and steady comfort to men facing hell. In the age of sail and cannon, the British Royal Navy had a secret weapon. It wasn't a new ship or a more powerful gun. It was a tortoise. This is the incredible true story of Timothy, the tortoise who was found on a pirate ship, served in the British Navy, and became a beloved mascot and a living symbol of resilience. But Timothy's story isn't just a historical curiosity. It's a gateway into the long and surprisingly rich history of animals in warfare, not as tools, but as comrades, symbols, and the unsung heroes who boosted the morale of soldiers and sailors when they needed it most. Get ready to meet the last living survivor of the Crimean War. The Discovery, a pirate's prize. Our story starts not in the formal halls of the British Admiralty, but on the choppy waters of the Atlantic in 1854. This was the twilight of privateering, a time when governments gave letters of marque to private ship owners, basically licensing them to act as pirates against enemy ships. It was a murky, brutal business, blurring the lines between naval warfare and outright plunder. And it was on one of these ships, a Portuguese privateer, that our unlikely hero was found. Captain John Guy Courtney Everard of the Royal Navy intercepted the Portuguese vessel. You can just picture the scene, disciplined British sailors boarding a rough-and-tumble ship, likely filled with a motley crew and stolen goods. But amid the chaos, Captain Courtney Everard found something totally unexpected. Not treasure, not weapons, but a small Mediterranean spur-thighed tortoise, probably about 10 years old. How did a land-dwelling reptile end up on a pirate ship in the middle of the ocean? History is silent on the details. Was she a pet? Cargo for an exotic market? A good luck charm for a superstitious crew? We'll never know for sure. What we do know is that her fate was about to change. For reasons of his own, maybe pity, maybe amusement, Captain Courtney Everard took the tortoise. He gave the creature a very English, and very male, name, Timothy. Little did he know, this small act would preserve a life that would span another century and a half. Timothy, the former pirate's companion, was now in the service of the Crown. She was brought aboard HMS Queen, a massive 110-gun ship of the line. Her journey was just beginning, and it was taking her straight into one of the 19th century's most brutal conflicts. The Crimean War was on the horizon, and Timothy, the little tortoise from the Mediterranean, was about to get a front-row seat. Bringing an animal aboard a naval vessel wasn't as weird as it sounds. Sailors were famously superstitious, and ship's cats were common for pest control. But Timothy was different. She wasn't there for a practical job. She was destined to become a mascot, a living emblem of the ship and its crew. Her role would be psychological, a small, steady presence in a world of profound danger. As HMS Queen sailed toward the Black Sea, Timothy the tortoise, a creature of the earth, became a resident of the unforgiving sea. The Crimean War, a tortoise on deck. The mid-19th century was a powder keg. The Ottoman Empire was weakening, and Russia was eager to expand into the power vacuum. Fearing Russia's ambitions, an alliance of Britain, France, and the Ottoman Empire declared war in 1854. This conflict, the Crimean War, would become infamous for its savage battles, logistical nightmares, and a horrifying death toll, mostly from disease. It was into this chaos that HMS Queen sailed, with Timothy on board. The ship joined the Allied fleet in the Black Sea, with the main goal of capturing the heavily fortified Russian naval base at Sevastopol. On October 17, 1854, the first bombardment of Sevastopol began. The sea erupted in a deafening symphony of destruction as hundreds of cannons from the Allied fleet hammered the city's stone forts, which fired back with equal fury. Imagine being on the deck of HMS Queen. The air is thick with the acrid smell of gunpowder. The wooden ship shudders with every broadside. The sky is black with smoke, punctuated by the terrifying whistle of incoming Russian shells. Splinters the size of spears fly through the air as cannonballs smash into the hull. Men are shouting, the wounded are screaming, and the world is reduced to a chaotic, terrifying roar. And somewhere in the middle of all this was Timothy. A small, 5-kilogram tortoise, instinctively pulling her head and limbs into the armored dome of her shell. What could she have possibly made of the concussive blasts? To the sailors, she must have been a surreal sight. While their fragile human bodies were exposed to flying metal and shattering wood, Timothy had her own natural armor. She was a tiny, living fortress, an embodiment of resilience in the face of overwhelming violence. Her presence was a powerful morale boost. In the grim reality of naval warfare, the simple act of seeing this calm, persistent creature going about her slow life was a reminder of a world beyond the conflict. The men would have fed her and cared for her. She became a shared responsibility, a living good luck charm. Surviving a battle alongside Timothy must have felt like a good omen. Timothy was there for the first bombardment of Sevastopol, a key moment in the war. While the naval assault failed to break the city, leading to a long and bloody siege, Timothy had earned her place in naval history. She had faced enemy fire and survived. She wasn't just a pet anymore, she was a veteran. She was the mascot of HMS Queen, a silent witness to one of the most ferocious naval battles of her time. The war would rage on, but Timothy, the humble tortoise, would endure. Life aboard a man of war. Timothy's naval career lasted long after the Crimean War. For nearly 40 years, from 1854 to 1892, she was a fixture in the Royal Navy. After her time on HMS Queen, she was transferred to other ships, including HMS Princess Charlotte and HMS Nanking. Her continued presence on these warships says a lot about how much the sailors valued her. Life on a 19th-century man of war was tough. Conditions were cramped and unsanitary, discipline was brutal, and the food was monotonous. Hundreds of men were packed together in a floating wooden world, often for years at a time. But it was also a life of deep camaraderie, of bonds forged in the face of shared hardship. Into this rigid, masculine world, Timothy brought a different kind of energy. She needed care, scraps from the galley or fresh greens picked up in port. She would have ambled across the decks, a slow and steady presence that must have been a source of gentle amusement. In a world run by the ship's bell and the bosun's whistle, Timothy operated on her own time. Sailors far from home often form strong attachments to animals. A mascot like Timothy becomes a confidant, a non-judgmental listener for men under immense stress. Caring for her would have been a comforting ritual, a small act of nurturing that stood in powerful contrast to their often violent duties. Timothy would have experienced the daily rhythms of naval life, the holy stoning of the decks, the raising of sails, the endless drills. She would have felt the ship roll through calm seas and violent storms, basking in the Mediterranean sun and feeling the chill of the North Atlantic. The sailors would have protected her, not just as a mascot, but as one of their own. She was part of the ship's soul. It's fascinating to think about the stories she inspired. Did sailors tell tall tales about her? Did they attribute a kind of ancient wisdom to her? For nearly 40 years, Timothy was a living thread connecting different crews and ships. A young sailor who first met her in the 1850s might have seen her again as a seasoned officer in the 1880s, a living reminder of his own long service. She was a constant in a world of change, a small creature who quietly served the most powerful navy in the world, not with firepower, but with her simple, enduring presence. Section 4, A Broader History, The Unsung Animal Heroes. Timothy's story, as amazing as it is, isn't unique. She's part of a long tradition of military mascots that spanned centuries and species. Since ancient times, armies have marched with animals. While many, like horses, were instruments of war, countless others were brought along to bolster the human spirit. These animal mascots weren't weapons, they were comrades who provided comfort and became powerful symbols of a unit's identity. The psychology is simple but profound. In the dehumanizing chaos of war, an animal provides a connection to a more innocent world. Caring for a mascot gives soldiers a sense of purpose beyond their military duties and offers an outlet for affection in a profession that often demands the opposite. Perhaps the most famous example is Wojciech, the Syrian brown bear who became a soldier in the Polish army during World War II. In 1942, Polish soldiers found an orphaned bear cub in Iran and adopted him. They named him Wojciech, or Smiling Warrior, and he grew up among them, drinking beer, eating cigarettes, and wrestling with the men. When it was time to deploy to Italy, regulations forbade animals on transport ships. So, the soldiers officially enlisted Wojciech into the Polish army. He was given the rank of private, a serial number, and his own paybook. During the brutal Battle of Monte Cassino, Private Wojciech saw his comrades struggling to carry heavy crates of artillery shells. He began mimicking them, carrying the 100-pound boxes to the gun emplacements without ever dropping one. In recognition of his bravery, he was promoted to corporal, and the emblem of the 22nd Company was changed to a bear carrying an artillery shell. The British Army has a similar tradition with the Royal Welsh Regiment, which has had a goat mascot for centuries. The tradition supposedly began at the Battle of Bunker Hill in 1775 when a wild goat wandered onto the battlefield and led the regimental colors to safety. Since 1844, every goat mascot has been a gift from the British monarch. These aren't just pets, they're official soldiers with a rank, number, and a salary used for their rations and uniform. One famous mascot, Lance Corporal William Windsor, was demoted in 2006 for unacceptable behavior after he tried to headbutt the drummers during a parade for Queen Elizabeth II. He later earned his rank back before retiring with full military honors. Across the Atlantic, the U.S. Marine Corps has its own iconic mascot, the English Bulldog. The Bulldog was adopted after World War I, referencing the nickname "Devil Dogs" that German soldiers allegedly gave the ferocious Marines. The first official mascot, Jigs, was enlisted in 1922, and since 1957, the mascot has been named Chesty, in honor of Lieutenant General Louis Chesty Puller, the most decorated Marine in history. These mascots are official members of the Corps who hold rank and serve as ambassadors embodying honor, courage, and commitment. The list goes on. There was a South African baboon named Jackie who served in World War I, losing a leg in battle and earning a medal for bravery, and an Indian tiger named Plassey who lived unchained at a British regimental base. From dogs and goats to bears and tortoises, these animals have shared the lives of soldiers and sailors, offering a touch of humanity in the most inhumane of environments. Retirement to a castle, Timothy's golden years. After nearly 4 decades of service, Timothy's naval career ended in 1892. An old salt at the ripe age of about 48, she finally retired from the sea. She had outlasted ships, captains, and generations of sailors. Now, it was time for a well-earned rest on dry land. Her retirement was, to put it mildly, idyllic. She was taken in by the Earl of Devon and given a new home at the magnificent Powderham Castle. This was the ancestral home of the Courtenay family, the very family of the captain who had first brought her into the Navy. The tortoise found on a pirate ship was now living in a storybook English castle. For the next century, Timothy's world was the castle's beautiful rose garden. She became as much a part of the castle's identity as its ancient stones. From 1935, she was cared for by Lady Camilla Gabrielle Courtenay. The family was clearly proud of their unique resident. At some point, they had the Courtenay family motto, *ubi lapsus, quid feci. Where have I fallen? What have I done? Gently etched onto her underside. It was a fittingly philosophical question for a creature swept up by history. As the 20th century marched on, Timothy, the Victorian veteran, continued her quiet existence. She lived through the invention of cars, airplanes, 2 world wars, the nuclear age, and the dawn of the Internet. During World War II, it was reported that as German bombs fell near Exeter, the old veteran, perhaps remembering the cannons of Sevastopol, was seen instinctively digging her own shelter. Her fame grew, and she became a local celebrity. A small sign was sometimes placed near her that read, "My name is Timothy. I am very old, please do not pick me up." She was a cherished elder who commanded a quiet reverence. Her life at the castle was a long, peaceful epilogue to an adventurous youth, but Timothy still had one more surprise up her sleeve. A surprising revelation and a lasting legacy. For over 80 years, everyone had known Timothy as a he. The name given by Captain Courtenay Everard back in 1854 had stuck. But in 1926, the owners of Powderham Castle decided it might be time for their long-serving resident to have an heir. They tried to arrange a mating for him. It was then that a rather significant biological fact, overlooked for 8 decades, came to light. The mating attempts were failing because Timothy was, and always had been, female. This discovery adds a wonderful layer of irony to her story. The tough little naval mascot, veteran of a brutal war, this stoic symbol named Timothy, was actually a matriarch. In the 19th century, methods for sexing tortoises weren't widely known, so the mistake was understandable. But the revelation reframed her entire history. She wasn't just a survivor, she was a female who had thrived in the overwhelmingly masculine world of the Royal Navy. Timothy continued her peaceful life at Powderham Castle for many more decades, her gender now a celebrated part of her unique story. She became a tangible link to the past, a creature who connected the 21st century directly to the mid-19th. On April 3, 2004, Timothy passed away peacefully in her sleep. She was estimated to be around 160 years old, making her the oldest known animal in the United Kingdom and, more poignantly, the last known living survivor of the Crimean War. Every human who had fought in that conflict had been gone for generations. Only Timothy remained. Her passing was noted by newspapers around the world, and she was buried at Powderham Castle, her home for over a century. Her legacy is a testament to the strange and beautiful ways animal and human lives can intersect. Her story forces us to look at history from a different angle, reminding us that the grand narrative of wars and empires is made up of countless small, personal stories, including those of the animals who were there with us. Timothy the tortoise wasn't a weapon of destruction. She was a weapon of morale, a symbol of resilience, and a living bridge to a forgotten past. The story of Timothy is just one of thousands hidden in the margins of our history books. These are the tales that reveal the true character of the past, filled with unlikely heroes and profound moments of connection. If you believe history deserves to be remembered in all its fascinating and unusual detail, make sure to subscribe and ring the bell. We're dedicated to uncovering these forgotten histories and sharing them with the world. Join our community, and never miss another incredible story. The Echo of a Shell. Timothy's life was an extraordinary journey. From an anonymous tortoise on a Mediterranean shore to a prize on a pirate ship, from a naval mascot under fire to a beloved resident of an English castle, she saw it all. She was a contemporary of both Charles Dickens and the Internet. She was a creature of the earth who spent decades at sea, a female given a male's name, a silent witness to the sound and fury of human history. Her story is more than just a charming anecdote. It's a powerful reminder that history isn't just a collection of dates and battles, it's a living thing. Through the eyes of this one small tortoise, we get a unique perspective on the nature of war, the power of morale, and the incredible resilience of life. Timothy's shell, which protected her from the cannon fire of Sevastopol, holds the echoes of a forgotten time. It reminds us that often the smallest stories are the ones that resonate the most, a testament to a long life, well lived, and to the quiet strength that endures long after the guns fall silent.